The history of the fight against corruption in Indonesia. Indonesia has been through up and downs in its effort to combat corruption. It begins in 1950s with the establishment of several government agencies to eradicate corruption. Despite regular corruption convictions by the court, Indonesia continued to struggle in its fight against corruption, as the practice remains pervasive, even largely tolerated and accepted, and its actors even went unpunished. 1998 was a historical turning point for the nation. The Indonesian reform movement, popularly known as Reformasi, which brought an end to the 3 decades of the New Order regime. In its wake, the parliament enacted several key anti-corruption legislations. Including the Anti-Corruption Law in 1999 and the Anti-Corruption Commission Law in 2002, KPK at a glance. Indonesian Corruption Eradication Commission, also known as Komisi Pemberantasan Korupsi, or the KPK, was established in 2002. The Commission's mandate is to eradicate corruption through law enforcement and prevention measures. Aligned with the spirit of the reform, it carries out its tasks in the independent manner and free from any undue influences. The KPK is accountable to the public and reports periodically to the President, the Parliament, and the State Audit Board. The KPK's commissioners consist of 1 chairperson and 4 vice chairpersons. The commission leadership is collective collegial, meaning that each commissioner has equal standing in decision-making. Since 2019, the KPK is supervised by Supervisory Board. Here is the Commission's current structure of organization. Vision and mission. Our vision is together with the people, decrease the level of corruption for better Indonesia. We undertake our missions namely to prevent corruption through system improvement and education, as well as to eradicate corruption in effective and accountable manners. The KPK's duties. The KPK is tasked to prevent corruption, coordinate and supervise anti-corruption measures by other agencies, monitor the state administration, and also investigate and prosecute corruption offenses. Corruption prevention. Wealth declaration. The Commission facilitates the reporting of public officials' wealth through web-based applications, known as LHKPN. The KPK verifies and examines the reports. The Commission also published the declaration, including of a summary online. Gratification. In relation to gifts received by public officials that have the potential to create conflict of interest, these public officials are mandatory to report the gratification to the Commission. Gratification report can be submitted online by the public officials receiving the gratification no later than 30 working days from the date when the gratification was received. The Commission monitors the implementation of gratification control program in government agencies and regional governments. Information related to gratification is publicly available online. Monitoring and reviews on state administration. The KPK conducts periodical surveys, research studies, system and policy review related to strategic sectors, such as health, natural resources, infrastructure, and energy. As a result, the Commission provides recommendations for system or policies improvement to relevant ministries, agencies, and the President. Anti-corruption education. Anti-corruption education plays a significant role in building a culture of integrity. The anti-corruption education programs are conducted by developing education materials through formal education, pop culture, and public campaign involving active participation from government agencies, communities, and the private sector. Through the Anti-Corruption Learning Center, ACLC, as the Center of Excellence, the Commission conducts certification for anti-corruption counselors who carried out a mission to prevent corruption in all parts of the country. The KPK also provides domestic and international trainings on anti-corruption issues. Investigation and prosecution. The anti-corruption law established the definition of corruption and prescribed several types of corruption, including active and passive bribery, abuse of power, extortion, fraudulent behavior, corruption in public procurement, and graft. The law also regulates obstruction of justice, providing false information, and other related offenses. The law enforcement process begins with collecting information on corruption offenses. It can come from the public through multiple channels provided by the Commission, including anonymously through the KPK whistleblower system. The KPK has the authority to conduct initial investigations and prosecutions of corruption cases that involve law enforcers, state officials, and other parties connected to corrupt acts perpetrated by law enforcer or state officials, and/or involve a loss to the state of at least 1 billion Indonesian rupiahs, or more or less, $70,500 US. The Commission is also authorized to handle money laundering cases which predicate crime as corruption. Coordination and supervision. Anti-corruption measures, both in prevention and enforcement, are not solely conducted by the Commission, but also undertaken by various government agencies. The KPK's role is to coordinate and ensure that those measures are effectively implemented. There are two other law enforcement agencies that have the authority to investigate corruption cases, namely the Indonesian National Police and the Attorney General Office. In the enforcement area, coordination and supervision with other law enforcement agencies is conducted through exchange of corruption investigation information and capacity building program. In the field of prevention, KPK has a program to assist regional governments in promoting good governance through several indicators of governance. These indicators are used to quantitatively measure the improvements made by the regional governments. The progress of the program can be monitored online by the public through the Monitoring Center for Prevention (MCP) applications. National and international cooperation. The Commission is taking and promoting a multi-stakeholder approach by strengthening partnerships with government agencies, international organizations, individuals and groups outside the public sector, including civil societies, academics, media, and the private sector. Combating corruption also calls for international cooperation. Technological advancement and globalization have facilitated cross-border corrupt practices. It is important to foster strategic partnership with other law enforcement agencies, not only in the regions, but also globally. As a state party to both the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, UNCAC, and the United Nations Convention on Transactional Organized Crime, UNTOC, Indonesia plays an active role internationally in enforcement cooperation, knowledge sharing and information exchange, and advocacy of international policies and standards. Accolades. The KPK's credibility has been acknowledged and reflected in the various accolades and awards we received throughout the years. The battle against corruption requires a comprehensive and holistic anti-corruption efforts. We reiterate our commitment to strengthen our efforts in combating corruption in all its forms. This commitment is reflected among others through the Corruption Perception Index of Indonesia that has been steadily increasing throughout the years. Together with our local and global partners against corruption, we will continue to uphold and spread public values of integrity to ensure Indonesia is free from corruption.